kick off, let me welcome everyone. Thank you, everyone, for jumping on this call today. And just so maybe this is your first time on a call with us, or maybe you're not sure what's going on right now. As a church plant, in fact, one of the first things we did as a church plant was help business people in our local community. I think, in fact, Colin, you were the very first marketplace Zoom event that we did in April of last year. So as a church, we are extremely passionate about infiltrating and helping all areas, all parts of society, all spheres of culture. And the marketplace is a very important sphere of culture. So we will not shy away from empowering marketplace people, championing marketplace people, helping marketplace people. And we're so excited to do that in this city. And there's such a major need for that up here, I think, which is cool. So Colin, let me just, here we go. I'm just going to send this text out, this thread to the thread real quick. So we've got, here we go.
Yeah, you're good, man. It was a little tricky getting on. Normally Zoom's so simple, but today was a little trickier than
I don't know.
normal.
It concerns me. Should I be selling my Zoom stock? What's happening here? I'm a little bit worried. Yeah, it's all good. But yeah, just so everyone knows here too, Colin, you are in so many levels inspiring to me. You know, you're and not just because you're a boss business guy. There's so much more than just that. You know, you're a family man. Every time I see on Instagram, you're at some kind of soccer event.
Yeah.
With your kiddos.
Love sports. Yeah. Love our kids, man. Crazy about our kids.
You're a family man. You're a businessman. You're a pastor. And so, you know, we have Pastor Colin Higginbottom on the call today. And so not only will Colin have a business this year that will do north of $50 million, but he's also the marketplace ministry leader at Awaken Church in San Diego. And so why don't you just explain to people what that actually means? Because some people might think, a marketplace ministry leader, you probably throw like an annual coffee breakfast where everyone gets two little sausages and a little egg, and they all talk about, they all network with each other. But why don't you explain just a real quick snapshot of what that actually looks like down in San Diego? Because it's pretty cool.
Yeah, man, I appreciate that, Drew. And first I want to say, man, I appreciate you got good looking people on the call. First time I started going to church, man, I like God a lot, but the people, man, were ugly and, you know, not in shape and didn't have any style, and I didn't want to be like any of the people. So I appreciate people on your call, Drew, that actually, you know, pretty attractive looking crowd you got. So I do appreciate that. And maybe that's why I'm not the traditional pastor. You know, my wife and I, we used to think that was the only thing you could do for God, was do like holy things and ministry things. And you could be a missionary, and it was probably to some part of the world you didn't want to go to, you know, or you could be a traditional pastor. And, you know, we just didn't realize that God actually calls people into every sphere of culture. And so what we do down here, and what we've been doing at a part of Awaken for 9 years, we've been down here 9 years, is empowering the marketplace and validating the call and breaking the divide between what's secular and what's sacred. And we don't believe there's a divide. We think everything you do can be sacred, and everything you do can matter, not just on this planet, but even eternally. And so what we try to do is coach and train people to produce results, but actually serve God within their bent, within their wiring, within their engineering, within the thing that lights them up. And so, you know, that's kind of what we do. We're not on staff. We don't want to be on staff. We actually like making money and giving money more than we're after a position on a church staff. So we're not your traditional pastors, but we basically coach and lead and train marketplace champions to push the limits and and to deliver results. And so that's a little bit about what we do. We got a huge movement down here, Drew, as you know. Mm-hmm. And who would have thought that, well, I guess Billy Graham saw it coming when he said the next great move of God was going to happen in the marketplace. Mm. We just never had any idea, Drew, that we would be kind of front and center in what he's doing, you know, kind of in the earth. It's pretty cool.
It's wild. And so how many apprentices do you have down there in the church?
Oh, currently. Yeah. Okay. So in case you know, our apprenticeship is a very competitive program to get into. It's expensive, and it's a 5-month investment every Tuesday night for 3 hours. So it's strictly exclusive. You got to fight to get in. So we currently have 5 different campuses having groups of 12. So we take them in groups of 12 because you can do certain things. It's very competitive, and we can break you into teams of 2, 3, 4, or 6. And you're always competing for 5 months. You're learning to present. And so we currently have 52 apprentices, including our new Salt Lake City campus, Drew. And I was talking to Vlad the other day. One of the things that we want to do for Hope Village is really help you build that program up there, because the Northwest is just full of rock stars who are going to do big things for the kingdom of God and build really, really healthy and remarkable, not just businesses, Drew, but every sphere of culture. I mean, remember, the marketplace is not just businesses and entrepreneurs. It's made up of people going into politics, people in the military, arts and entertainment and sports. You know, athletics is so massive. It's a calling. You know, Drew Brees, remember when he was 16 years old, I don't know if you know this, but he had just torn his ACL and he was getting ready to give up on his dream to play football. And then he was sitting in church, and the pastor said, you know, God's looking for a few good men. And, you know, Drew thinking, well, God only looks for a few good men to do, like, you know, ministry related stuff. And instead God said, no, I want you to pick that football up for me. I've got cities I want you to influence. You know, he became a catalyst after Hurricane Katrina, when New Orleans was absolutely devastated. Who would have thought that God would use a quarterback of a football team to win a Super Bowl in a broken down city to restore hope? And so don't underestimate the kind of things that God likes to do and the kind of people he uses. He uses very unorthodox means to accomplish very, very important things. And so we love athletics. We love media. I'm not saying we love the state of the media, but we love and we believe God calls people into media. God calls people into education. We know that education is going to be one of the spheres in the next decade that will be the most disrupted sphere. And so many opportunities for business ideas are going to be found in the education space. And then, of course, we like business and finance. So I guess, Drew, what we do is we help people discover why God put them on the planet, what he engineered them for. And then we give them a purpose, not just making a living, but making a difference, making an impact, moving the needle. We love what we do, man. I can't believe we get to do it. I can't believe this is considered pastoring. This is not the pastoring I thought. In fact, I left pastoring because it wasn't my cup of tea. But if you call this pastoring, I just kind of call it coaching and leading and inspiring. This is fun. This is cool.
Yeah, that's awesome. Hey, it might be a good segue to, I know we talked a little bit about you telling your story today. I think that'd be a great way to kick off this conversation. Just so everyone knows, this discussion will go for around about 45, 50 minutes, give or take a few minutes either way. So, just so everyone knows that what's going on. We're not going to be on here for 6 hours and we're not going to be done in 3 minutes. So so you know what's happening, everyone watching today. But I think, Colin, I love your story. Why don't you just give us the maybe shorter version, but I think it'd be
sure.
to unpack where you came from and even your earlier in your 20s, what happened there?
Yeah. Well, I'll tell you where we are today. And then you'll appreciate where we are today once you realize where we came from. And we currently have owned our own company for 15 years. We're headquartered in the great state of Washington, in Seattle. And we will do this year a little over 50 million in revenue. And we are a top 100 company to work for 5 consecutive years. We have a little over 50 employees. And we're growing like crazy, and we're growing intentionally, and we're growing because on the other side of our success, people are waiting for us to win so we can create more opportunities. And so that's a little bit about where we are, but I'm going to go backwards a little bit. Before we started our business, I just got married. So we've been married for 16 years, moved down to San Diego 9 years ago, been at Awaken Church where I met Drew, the mighty Drew Davies, about 9 years ago. We both kind of showed up at the same time. And so we've been there for 9 years. But I want to go back, a couple years before I met Melissa, because I just turned 50. I know with my Just for Men looking fresh, right. You would have guessed I was 35, but no.
Amazing. What are you moisturizing
on this planet for like a half a century and learned a thing or two. And so if you go back 20 years, was a real crisis point for me, Drew. I was living on my mom's couch, and I had just been through a divorce, and nobody wants to be in a devastating situation like I was in. I knew God loved me. I knew God was for me, but my life just wasn't working. I was very frustrated. I had tried the ministry route. I had tried all kinds of things for God because I knew he called me to something, but I just hadn't found that place where I was really, really being effective, really being successful. And not only that, I was struggling inside with a lot of confidence issues. And so this last year, I celebrated 20 years in confidence.
Wow.
Interesting. Nothing's different about me. Same wiring, same gifting, same calling, same passion, same God. And yet confidence changed the game. And so I've got some tips on how to grow in confidence, but I can tell you this, a parent of 4 kids, there's not one attribute I long for in my children more than confidence. So it all began with confidence. But going back just a little further, Drew, I used to think, and I mentioned this in the beginning of the call, that the only thing you could do was for God. The only high calling was kind of doing what Drew's doing. You know what I mean? I had to be a pastor. I had to give up everything I love to do something I didn't love as much. And somehow God was pleased with my sacrifice. And, the more I hated it, the more God liked it, kind of stuff. And that was kind of that was my fault. That was the religion. Religion will paint a really weird picture of God. Like somehow he created, I'll give you an example. Our son had his Christmas and birthday just recently. So we had Christmas Day, and then his birthday was January 8th. So we did this combined present. He wanted a gaming computer, but he wanted to build it himself. And I'm thinking, you're crazy. That you don't know how to build stuff. I don't know how to build stuff. You're going to want my help. This is going to be a nightmare. I saw around the corner, but I didn't do anything about it. And we still got him the gaming computer, and it came with all these pieces. And sure enough, I don't know what the date is today, the 20th or 21st, and it's still not assembled. There's been tears, there's been crying. But I want to tell you something. I think a lot of us think that God sends us problems. But I want you to know, as a father, there was never one thing when we were trying to order all the list of stuff that Josiah needed for this computer. There was never one day I was like, you know what? Why don't we order the wrong product? Just to make it tricky, just to teach him a lesson. He'll probably need to learn through adversity one day. He needs to process disappointment one day. So as his father, I'm going to send the wrong product so he can experience a little adversity. It'll be good for him. Let me just say this. I think that's religion. Religion tries to put on God all the problems we have, all the disappointments we have, all the pain we're in, that he's somehow trying to teach us a lesson. Listen. Inherent in assembling a computer is enough problems all by itself that I don't need to help making it more difficult. In fact, as a father, I want to help making it simpler. And so, I think, Drew, for me, I had a real bad view of God, and I had a real bad view of religion. And so it wasn't even necessarily the fact that I was pastoring that was bad. It was just that I had the wrong view of life and the wrong view of myself. And so it's so great to be on the other side of confidence. It's so great to be a part of a church like Hope Village, Drew, where you guys got a good view of God, that God's in a good mood, and God wants to help us and strengthen us, and he's engineered us to work, and we're not just broken, jacked up humans that are forgiven and somehow our meaningless existence will somehow make a difference someday. Heck no, man. We're a part of like a life that's meaningful and impactful, and it's fun, man. So that's my story a little bit.
And so you were in ministry in your 20s, and you bought into the idea that you have to be a pastor at a church to have a calling to please God, to be
Correct.
in ministry.
Yeah.
So why don't you unlock for some people today and set some people free and let them know that they can be in ministry in the marketplace? But also, I think as well, be great for you to tell a couple of keys on how you got your confidence through how you got your confidence back and how it's grown for you over the years. Because you're
oh my gosh,
I can't imagine.
Confidence is everything. Confidence is everything, Drew. Well, I had to discover that the highest call is what God's called you to. And we are going to give an account one day to what God's called us to, but he doesn't call everybody to, be pastors and missionaries. He calls people to be teachers. He calls people to be politicians. That's a tough call right now. I think it's a lot easier to be a pastor today than a politician today. You know what I mean? That's a high calling. And if God hasn't called you to it, you'll probably succumb to the fear of man and the pressure. But right now we're in a day where God's calling people into everything, and he's looking for people that he can use in every sphere of culture. We have a girl in our apprenticeship who she's former Miss California, and she trains people on how to win pageants. You know what I mean? And I just think, gosh, I just love that we have people in every space, in every sphere. And what I love is not trying to just code certain jobs or vocations as godly. What I love is doing everything for him, and whatever is in my hand, whatever I'm supposed to do, I'm going to do it with all my might, and I'm going to do it for his glory. And Drew, even a flooring company in the construction world, God can use. And I think that's one of the craziest things in the world, is that God chose to use a flooring company to build a platform on. And I don't know, man, it's kind of fun.
How do you find purpose in that industry? I mean, for me, I may have shared this last call that we did, so hopefully I didn't. But I put most of my big decisions in life. I have to get, I call it the 3 Fs. What are the 3 Fs? I have to get one of these 3 things. I have to either get fun, fulfillment, or finance. I have to get one of those 3 things. Otherwise, I won't do something. And so ministry for me is very fun and very fulfilling. The stock market to me is kind of fun, but it's good for finance. And I wouldn't say that feeling. I don't open my Fidelity app and feel extremely fulfilled, but I do find that helps the finance F. So I think it's important. That's just my little way of how I make decisions about things I say yes or no to. I have to get one of those 3 things, preferably all 3. That's like the jackpot, right? So how do you then find purpose in your industry? I can't imagine that the construction industry, you get maybe as much fulfillment out of installing some flooring. I mean, flooring's flooring to me. I think that I wouldn't get that lit up about it, but hey, what about you?
Well, I still don't personally get lit up about flooring, but I'm very lit up about the flooring industry, because I've found it's what's in my hand, and you can only really grow what's currently in your hand. And right out of college, I was just looking for a place to land and looking for somebody to mentor, coach me, looking for a place to prove that I could deliver results. And so I just landed accidentally. It was actually a girlfriend of mine's in college, sister's husband's dad that owned a company. And let me just say this, sometimes you're looking for God to promote you. You got to look, most of the time it's people that promote you. Now, God will have his hand on you and he'll see things, but it's usually people that will open the door for opportunities. And so that's kind of how this door opened for me, Drew. And I was actually more of a project manager. I love solving problems. I love solving problems when I was waiting tables, and I love solving problems as a project manager. And so that's kind of how this door opened up. So how do I find fulfillment? You asked that question. Fulfillment comes from me it comes from two things. There's a big fulfillment. That means what I do matters, but fulfillment also comes from what I do, I'm good at. And I think there's a big problem when you're doing things that matter, but you suck at. I actually think, when you study, we're a top 100 company to work for. We study what creates a culture where people want to go to work. Number one thing, doing things they're actually good at, doing things they feel like they contribute. Listen, it's not people's pay packet. It's not how much they take home. That stuff matters, but it doesn't matter as much from people leaving work feeling like I contributed to my team, leaving work feeling like, man, I'm really good at this, leaving work feeling like, gosh, man, I made a difference. Like I was a part of something that I made it better. Yeah. And I think fulfillment comes, Drew, number one, when I begin to realize who I am and how I'm wired and what I'm really gifted at, and then doing it consistently and beginning to move my day. Let's say it's 50, 40, 50, 60 hours in the week. If I'm only spending three of those hours doing things I love, I'm not going to love what I do. I'm not going to be fulfilled. And I'm not going to enjoy it. It's not going to be very fun. And to be honest, I'm actually not going to be very fruitful either. I'm not going to be very productive. But if I can start to find my way into where 80% of my time and energy is being spent on things I'm really good at, I'm really gifted at, really talented at. And I think in the kingdom of God and in Christianity, we've made purpose all around like the big rock or like I am funding like some evangelical project in the 1040 window. And I feel like if that's the only thing that can light us up as Christians, then we're misunderstanding the way we're wired. One of the, remember Eric Liddell, and I use this story a lot, where he says, yeah, God made me with a purpose, but he also made me super fast. And when I run, I feel his pleasure. And I find like when I do the things that I'm good at, I enjoy it more. I'm way more fulfilled. It's way more fun. And I find God's pleasure in it too.
So why don't you help someone today who feels like they're stuck in something that they don't like doing? Maybe they work for someone else and they literally they feel stuck, or maybe they work for themselves but they feel unfulfilled. They feel like they're not in their lane. How does someone help someone find their lane?
Man, that is a great question. I would say this: most people in the marketplace are a little bit stuck. They're certainly not spending the majority of their time doing the things they're really good at. I think it begins with this, Drew, that God's will for you is eventually you're doing things you love and that you're wired to do and that you're actually really good at. Mm-hmm. I mean, imagine me as a father realizing my son Josiah loves sports, hates art, but I decide, you know what? I think it's best for him to do art. I think he can learn a lot from doing art. How fulfilled is he going to be? How fun is it going to be? How effectual is it going to be? How successful, how confident is he going to be? Versus like what we just did this year during COVID, we pivoted out of normal school and we put him in an academy program where he spends hours training on speed and sports. He's only a 13-year-old kid, but he's spending 80% of his time on his strengths, on his abilities, on the things that are unique for him. And guess how much he loves school now? Guess how effective, and guess how much his confidence has grown. So the first thing I would tell you is listen. If you hate your job, that's not God's will. He's not trying to teach you something there. So the number one step into doing things that you love is realizing there are things that you're really good at, that are really fulfilling. And you got to do a deep dive. We're not going to uncover it all right here, but
I hope Stuart's okay there. That sounded like a car beep. Sorry, man.
Running someone off the road, man.
Yeah.
You hear me, Drew? It's like, I think the first thing to unpack is the fact that there is not just an industry that is satisfying and fulfilling, but there's also a position. And I want to take our eyes off of being a part of an industry that's sexy, because I'm not in an industry that's sexy, but I'm in a position that's sexy. I'm in a position that was tailor fit for me. I'm in a position where I love what I do. I love what I get to do. I love my job description. Do I love that I'm in the construction industry? I could give a rip, but my job description was tailor made for me to be fruitful, for me to be challenged, and for me to love what I do. And I think that's the key. So let's move away. And as Christians, we want everything to matter, and we want to be a part of a great cause. And yeah, that's fine. Okay, that's fine. But before we move into being a part of a great cause, let's be really good. Let's be really good at something. That makes sense?
Yeah, that's good, man. I like that. Just to pivot away a little bit, one thing I'd love for you to talk about, and I know that we both love what the Bible says in Psalms 92. It says that those who are planted will flourish. And so I think we've had great conversations over the years about the importance of being planted in a life-giving, empowering church. And I think that you and I would agree that you and I are who we are today because of our time in the incredible soil, the healthy soil of Awakened Church in San Diego. And everyone who's on this call today from Hope Village Church would know that I say this all the time, that my job as your pastor, if you decide that you want to be part of our church, my job is to make sure that the soil of our church is extremely healthy. That's my number one job. Yeah. And then your number one job is just to plant yourself, not be the potted plant that's hopping around everywhere. I'll go here, I'll go there, I'll go to 5 different churches. No, just trust the soil, plant yourself in here. So I think it'd be great for you to talk about maybe one or two of your big takeaways from being planted. I mean, I've got thousands, right? Of where do I even start? Lessons I've learned from Pastor Jurgen, lessons I've learned from being in San Diego. What's like a couple that stand out to you?
Okay, so I'm going to speak to business people, okay, because I'm a business guy. And so I'm going to talk. I've got a whole lot of benefits that have come out of being planted at Awaken. We've been here for over 9 years. In fact, Drew, when we met you guys may not know this, but Drew and Emma, they ran our Eastlake campus, which was the fastest growing church campus in America. I mean, these guys are legends there. And it was really fun because as our business was blowing up, because I was in my lane, and this is the thing I want you to know, when you're planted in the house of the Lord, your lane is going to flourish. And so Drew's lane was church planting, church building, and they were blowing it up. But my lane was business. And so simultaneously, I was experiencing the same supernatural results, the fruit of increase. I don't know about you, but the thing I'm most afraid of is being in the same place next year. I'm most afraid of mediocrity. I'm most afraid of not growing. I'm most afraid of unrealized potential. Those are the things that really irritate me when there's not growth or progress or increase. And so being part of that environment, I'm going to give you a couple examples of things that really benefited me. Because when we showed up at Awaken 9 years ago, we were doing a little under 5 million and didn't even have vision for anything big. Our vision was more survival and getting by and paying bills. We didn't realize that God could do so much with our business. There wasn't any businesses in our industry. There's certainly construction companies that are in the $50 million range, but there's no flooring companies in this range. I mean, that's unheard of. And so I think the beginning, Drew, of being planted at a church like Hope Village, or in our case, Awaken, was it changed I constantly got into an atmosphere where I saw bigger, where I saw beyond where I was, and where I felt called upward. Remember, the call of God is upward. It's always upward. And I had a lot of limitations. I never saw myself as a $1 million earner. I never saw myself as a 6-figure a year giver. I never thought we'd be given, writing checks for $250,000 to finance that wasn't even in my mindset. I didn't even have a headspace for being big. And I think the first thing about being in a great church is it'll call you up. It'll call you up. Like a parent, I'm always wanting my kids to realize their potential. I'm always wanting them to step in to everything they were created to be and everything they can be. And the thing that's hard for me to watch as a father is my kids underperforming or underachieving or diminishing what they can be because they have a wrong view of themselves. And so I think the first thing that happened to me when I got into Awaken is I started to see through a different lens. I felt like I was brought to a higher level of perspective. And once you see what God has for you, it's really hard to settle for less. And so the first thing, Drew, that happened is I got a bigger vision. I got a vision for bigger, you know?
Yeah, that's amazing.
I'm a believer, Drew, that humility, true humility, simply says yes to God, which oftentimes is saying yes to bigger. I've rarely seen God ask me to go smaller. I've seen him ask me to give bigger. I've seen him ask me to stretch further. I've seen him ask me to trust more, believe more, push more, invest more. I rarely hear him say, hey, dial it down a little bit. I usually hear him calling me upward. And I think a great environment like Awaken and Hope is an upward call, man. Massive. That's one thing.
Wow. You know, one thing that Pastor Emma preached about on Sunday was this funny saying that Christians always say, which is, yeah, I'm gonna pray. I want to get a peace about doing something, and I understand that you want to have a peace internally that comes from God, but I can't think of too many people who I know that have done big or significant things that have a peaceful life. I can't think of too many CEOs that I know that don't have the occasional night where they're laying in bed wondering how they're going to make payroll next month. So I think what would be an interesting question would be, how do you manage that? How do you manage, because we have peace from God, sure, but then doing big things, if you haven't got the ability to cope with the pressures of business, I mean, I'd say this straight up to anyone, especially young guys that want to be a number one person. You want to be a CEO, you want to be a self-employed. You may not be wired for that, and that's not necessarily a wrong thing. But how do you? So anyway, I want to ask you the question: how do you deal with the pressures, the stress? How do you help some of the entrepreneurs watching today who are just starting out in business, or perhaps they even work for somebody else? And there's definitely there's like a need for growth in this area.
Great questions, Drew. Well, I want to say this. Before I became my own boss and employed 50 plus people, I worked for somebody else. And let me just say real quick, if you're working for somebody else, that's not a less than call. And I will say this as well: the way I worked for my boss at the time has translated to the way people work for me. And I worked my butt off, and I was honoring. I was always looking out for their reputation, always looking out for their bottom line, always trying to protect their reputation, always trying to protect their profit, always trying to make them money. And I'll tell you something now, I have a whole team of people that look out for my reputation and make me crazy money. But it didn't start when I became an owner. It started when I was working for somebody else, and I began to serve another man's vision. And I'll tell you something, if you're trying to get out from underneath working for the man, you're going to be in for a very uncomfortable wake-up call. So I want to speak to that. So I don't care where you are, wherever you are is where you need to be faithful. You can only be faithful with where you are. You can't be faithful with your next season. If you're not faithful where you are, you're not going to be faithful when you have your own company. The only season you can ever be faithful in is the one you're in. Okay. And so you're all right now have an opportunity to be faithful. And really the definition of faithful means you multiply. Somebody gave you something and you gave it back to them better than you found it. You gave it back to them bigger than you found it. You gave it back to them healthier than you found it. You gave it back to them better, more profitable, with less money leaking out of it, with more money coming into it. That's the definition of faithful. Nobody cares how kind you are or honest you are. Are you leaving things better than you found them? And in the business world, that generally means more profitable. Are you a producer of results that anytime somebody hands you something, you bring it back to them better than you found it? And I think, Drew, this is the secret sauce right here, because a lot of times, what I struggled with a lot was I was waiting for the next thing. Then it was going to be exciting. And I never saw hidden in today, hidden in the opportunities that are currently in my hand, hidden in this customer that's driving me crazy, hidden in this employee or this coworker or this boss. It's really, really difficult. Instead of really taking advantage of the pressures I was under, I was trying to get out from underneath pressure. I was trying to get into a more comfortable place, an easier place, a place more fit for me, instead of really asking the question, what can I do with what I have? And how can I make the situation I'm currently in effective? And that's a little tidbit. I want to get back to your question on pressure, but I feel like there's a little life on that. I think we as business people have a tendency to kind of want something new. And we also have a tendency to miss what we currently have.
And I think too, especially in being a Christian, I've heard, I'm trying to hear from God. What's God saying? And sometimes it's like, well, what was the last thing God said?
Yeah.
Did you do that?
Oh.
Well, no.
Oh, man.
Let's go back to that one. Let's go back to what God last said to you.
Let me give you a little tip. If you're a Christian in the marketplace, don't say things like, God told me to do this. Keep that private.
To your boss.
Oh my gosh. Yeah.
God tells you something else.
Freaking weirdo. You become a weirdo and you ruin it for all the rest of us. You got your Christian screensaver on your computer in your cubicle, and you got weird religious sayings that you throw around the office, and then you wonder, and you call that persecution. You call it persecution. No, you're freaking weird. And I'm telling you, this is not the kingdom. The kingdom is produce results. Produce results. And you produce results by doing what you currently are trusted to do. I promise you this. I don't care how crazy your boss is or your coworkers are. If you produce results, they're going to like you. If you don't, they don't. And they might even be interested in how you believe or what your politics are or what your religious preferences are, if you produce results. But I can promise you this, if you continue to just be a weirdo with an opinion who doesn't produce, they're not going to care what you say. Oh, but listen, if you start producing, they're going to want to know what you think. Sorry for that little rant, Drew.
No,
just couldn't help myself.
I was hoping you're going to keep going with that. I love it. I could join that rant. I could join that because there's a lot. Hey, especially in the business world, there's a lot of people that are great business commentators. We don't need more business commentators. We need more business players. We need people who have actually got some fruit, some actual results, rather than all the opinions in the world. It's so funny, being a pastor and being in business, people would tell you how to run your business, how to run your church. And quite often it's the ones that have the most opinions have the least fruit. And so I think as Christians, we need to, especially in the big corporate setting, we need to bear a ton of fruit. Otherwise, what kind of influence can we be if you're known as, he's the guy he's the Christian guy that is always doing his own thing and never on time, and if the boss tells him to get a report ready and he's late with it, just things like that. It's just a lack of excellence, and it doesn't represent God well at all.
Yeah, you're right, Drew.
It doesn't help us as Christians.
No way.
In the marketplace.
Well, listen, this is the reason the church is where it's at, is because we've done a good job being religious and weird. We just haven't done a good job being effective. And so the moment we move from weird and religious to being effective and potent, that's when we get our influence back. That's when we get our voice back. And until we move into the category of being effective and productive, we will never have a voice. And so if you really care about your Christian ideology and your Christian worldview, you need to care enough to start delivering results, because until you deliver results, nobody really cares.
Love that, man. Love that.
Hey, I want to get back to you. You asked a couple questions. I don't think I answered very well. I want to talk about pressure. Because listen, if you're going to stay at the same level that you've always been at, you're not going to experience a ton of pressure. But people that want to go from level to level, from grace to grace, from increase to increase, from 3 million to 5 million to 10 million to 15 million to 20 million to 50 million to 100 million, from 1 employee to 5 employees to 10 employees to 20 employees to 50 employees to 100 employees to 1,000. If you want to be a person that scales, and listen, I don't know how you can be a Christian and think that this life is about your safety and your security and your comfort level and the size of your house. If you're a Christian, you're always called to scale. You're always called the next level. You're always called to level up. You do not have an excuse to be comfortable. You do not have an excuse to remove yourself from pressure. You actually are signing up to climb to the next level all the time. And what I'm saying is, if you're a Christian trying to get out of pressure, you're actually looking for the wrong thing. What you need to be is a person that says, help me handle pressure better. And there's a simple prayer we used to pray. They're like, God, get me out of this as soon as possible. And when I changed that prayer from God, get me out of this as soon as possible to keep me in this as long as it takes, keep me here until this thing's been murder enough. Don't take me out of this now. Finish the work you got to do to make me a better leader, to make me, you understand where I'm coming from, Drew? I think pressure starts up here. We want things to be easy. We want things to be convenient and comfortable. And listen, it's not like we're chasing a perpetual pursuit of adversity, like we want a bad day. But what we can't be afraid of is the bad days that are a part of growth and increase and scale. If you're signing up for growth and increase and scale, you're signing up for bad days. And if you don't have the stones to handle bad days, then you're really not fit to grow. I got a book that I guarantee is probably impacted me the most in quite some time, and it's called Shoe Dog. And it's the story of Nike by Phil Knight. If you haven't read Shoe Dog and you want to learn a lesson in adversity, there is zero chance Nike should even be in existence. But it's such an extraordinary tale of how a company overcomes the odds. Excuse me. Have you read Shoe Dog, Drew?
I have a little bit. I've skimmed through it. I need to read it properly, because it's what I did read was good, man.
Anyway.
Yeah, I think to go back to what you just said, I think quite often when we're in adversity, we ask the wrong question to God. We ask, why God, instead of what God? We ask, God, why is this happening to me, rather than what are you going to do in me? This is not easy, but what if this difficult thing I'm in is actually a great thing for me, to do something in me to get me to, because we all want to go to the next level, but
big time
in the level we're at. Cope with the next level.
If you're going to go to the next level, you're going to confront yourself a ton, and there's nothing more humbling than scaling. Nothing more humbling than going someplace you've never gone. But listen, if we're going to be successful, we're going to have to go places we haven't gone before. We're going to have to push limits we haven't pushed before. And that's really what we're trying to build. That's the culture Drew wants at Hope Village. He doesn't want a whole bunch of comfortable people. He wants some people that are going to move the needle. So, hey, I want to honor your time, Drew. Yeah. It's 12:50, and I know, you got a bunch of hardworking marketplace people here that probably got to get back after it. So how do you want to close this thing out?
Why don't you pray for everyone, Colin?
Yeah.
Cool. Yeah.
You ready for that right now?
Pray for the people on this call. That'd be amazing.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. Or is there anything else you want to sign off on? Like one more 90-second thought.
Yeah, I'm gonna share one last thought, and then I'm gonna pray.
The people want one more nugget of gold.
Yeah. I'm from the Northwest. I know the Northwest pretty well. And there's a lot of Christians in the Northwest and a lot of business people in the Northwest. But I want to talk about how important it's been for me to be planted in church. And because for every 50 men and women that can handle prosperity, or that can handle adversity, you'll only find 1 in 50 that can handle prosperity. And prosperity is very challenging. It's very tricky. It's intoxicating. You can get like a Tiger Woods syndrome. You've got the most beautiful wife on the planet, but all of a sudden she's not enough because you've outgrown her, or you've outgrown things. And And I'm going to tell you, the pressures that come from prosperity are ridiculously intoxicating. And listen, God wants to next level your life, but if you're not planted in a place where you're going to continue to have your character growing at the degree your business is growing, you're going to shipwreck yourself. And I just really want to reiterate how imperative it is that you're not just a Christian that goes to church, but you really planted. And, you know, thank God you got a pastor in Drew that's like, wants you to win, who's like praying and believing for your Monday to be as powerful as Sunday. You know, I mean, that's what you want at Hope Village. But I got to tell you, don't just like attend, like get planted in there and get plugged in. And listen, 9 years of being planted has translated a tenfold return and award-winning business. And who would have thought the millions we've been able to not just make, but give? Who would have thought? And I want to take the limit off your life, Hope Village, and this marketplace community, that being planted is going to take the limits off you. Mm-hmm. And so anyway, I just wanted to share and leave with that. Is that okay, Drew? And then I'll pray for you guys.
No, it's great. Maybe it's a conversation for next time, how to deal with prosperity and how our character needs to keep up with that. Because that's a whole conversation.
Oh my gosh, man.
Yeah.
Prosperity shipwrecks more people than hard times do, because hard times keep you humble, but prosperity makes you proud, and pride comes before you know what. And so, but we believe you can win and hold it all together. We believe my marriage has never been better. You know what I mean? It's not worse, it's better. Mm-hmm. But that's not accidental. That's intentional. So, but hey, let me pray for you guys. God, I just want to thank you for Hope Village. And I just speak right now the word hope. I feel like, you know, this is a pretty unique season. We just had the inauguration yesterday, and just unique times and really unprecedented times. And I find in times like these, we can lose hope. We're uncertain of what's to come. And as a result, we kind of wait around instead of finding our hope in God and getting after the things we can control. And that's a word I feel right now as I'm praying. Don't wait around right now. Control the things you can control. Be busy about the things you can be busy about. There's a whole lot of things you don't know what's going to happen in the next 100 days. You just don't know. But what I'm saying is work on the things that are in your hand right now and put your head down. That's what I see. But I just speak hope right into the heart of anyone who's discouraged, anyone who's disheartened, anyone who's uncertain, anyone who's fatigued by uncertainty. I speak hope right into marketplace people right now. And I say, I just put a charge into all of us. You know, Jesus told his disciples, go into all the world, but I speak to you, go into the marketplace and win. Go and produce results. Go. There's a divine go on you. This is an hour for us to be light, to shine, to produce, to win. I pray winning over this group, Drew. I speak over your marketplace champions, not just a community of people that love God and are in business, but I see over your group a community of winning culture, a culture of winners. I see contracts being won. I see promotions. I see vision opening up for new hires and even new departments and whole new arms of organizations. And I just declare, God, you beginning to speak to the Hope Village community, the Catalyst community, the marketplace community. And I say blessing and increase. And I also pray for you to really forge extraordinary community here at Hope Village, and marketplace community, winning community, accountable community. Listen, there's a difference between accountability to not like sinning. I'm talking accountable to winning, accountable to making the amount of calls you need to make, accountable to push the goals you need to. I see a healthy accountability coming out of Hope Village that translates to winning. And what I also pray is eventually, listen, it's a decade play. Not everything's going to happen in 2021, but I call into motion the activities and the disciplines and the patterns and the habits that are going to produce influence in the next decade. And God's trying to shift influence in the Northwest out of the hands of the perverse and into the hands of the righteous. But it's going to be a decade. It's going to be a decade of hard work and diligence that's going to translate to moving the needle and the shift coming back. But I say Hope Village would be a place where the marketplace people are they don't just win big, but they're just devout in their faith. and they're devout in the way they love God and the way they build the kingdom. And I see twofold. I see you growing in God and growing in success. And I see the two going hand in hand. It's not one or the other. I see both and. And I just bless Drew. I bless Hope Village. I bless Emma. Thank you for their courage. Thank you that they're open. Oh my gosh. Nobody else is open. I thank you for a church that's got some stones. And I thank you for some marketplace people that are winning and backing the kingdom. And just bless this crew in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen. Amen. Hey, Pastor Colin, thank you so much for your time, man. What an honor it is to have you pour into us today. So it's just want to again just honor you and thank you again. You're such a legend, such an encourager, and just love having you in our corner. You're such a massive fan of ours. We're a massive fan of you as well, and Melissa, and we miss you guys and looking forward to hanging out. Get up here soon.
We'll be up there soon. We'll do one of these live real soon, man.
That'd be really cool.
Drew, thanks so much for your courage, man, and your leadership and answering the call, man. Congrats on all your success and all the growth. There is so much more success. Listen, you guys, Pastor Drew's had the fastest growing church in America. That's what's going to happen in the Northwest. You guys will grow so fast, you're going to have to figure out what to do. But don't just grow big, grow great. So love you guys.